Barrett, and I am the exhibit room coordinator over at the Wapaka Public Library. And we are so happy you could make it tonight, and thank you for bearing with us in the heat in here. But we want to welcome the Oneida Longhouse Singers from the Oneida Nation, and I think they'll take it from there. Anything else? And the program should go till about 8 tonight, and there will be some time for questions before the end. So thank you all again for coming. And just as a note, please make sure to stop by the library when you have a chance during open hours. And we have the Native American exhibit going on right now called Common Ground, Native Cultures of Wisconsin. So please be sure to check that out. Once again, the Oneida Longhouse Singers.
Kuli, spakwik, ne ne wakali hoi dakwa ne dakhe wanakwa ne gijokwa ne gane wasundade ne gane chitnate ne chitni kole hoda ne ungohe ne ne lodegas ne galo ne chitniole ne dan batasa ne chitnate ne de hojuhu ne na dwachale ne sayadat ne sung ohandu ne nyole wadehtu ne gane hela dongsla ne ka ne dungwe ne lauha hungale hoi dakwa ne ahatalahwe ne jitnate ne lundegas ne gani hala dongsla ne ka ne jitnate ne nadwachale ne kalo ne jitniole ne so ne hodo ne tunu ne doka ne nikawanage ne hungale wate ne nakakweni kui Koi bune swat nikul hayan dani ta 22 hak ne nikwa niko Israel hika ne nagadadi ne haka koi nikwi ne swat nikul hayan dani kelegi wa So well, my name is Randy Cornelius, and I'll be doing most of the speaking this evening in terms of the program this evening. And one of the first things, though, that we do whenever we come together as people is what we call the Gani Helatu. And what that means is what's used to give thanks. And this is a custom among the Iroquois people. We would call ourselves Yungwanusis Haga, the people of the Longhouse. And so this young handsome man here, Lanigante, he's gonna do that on behalf of everybody here, and then I'll explain what that's all about when he's done. So, Donnie.
Nora ganjo kone solon sioste, sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba ningua, le tino helado no ha honja ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego, sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado ganjo ko ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego, sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado ne gana sogo ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado ne bisu ha ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado Indelio ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado nya legaluda ge ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tano helado ovela su ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tano helado lagi sakai base ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tano helado da hasan ko ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tino helado episota vanile ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Sego skoji ai do hanuni ne hiba nego. Tano helado skana delio jognate solo ayanto ji sego na da wadan de da tundu ha ne hiba nego. Segos Gaji, Edo Honuni, Nehibo Nego, the Tono Helado, Singway Bisoji, Agego, Lamandao, Datin Duhab, Nehibo Nego, Dana Ganjoko, Neo Gwani, and Dana Heladons, Datin Duhab, Nehibo Nego, Danatom.
Testing. Oh, can you hear me now? A little bit closer. A little bit louder. Or louder-er. That's gooder. Gooder. So, what we call the Ganihela in our language, the Oneida language, what that means is what we use to give thanks. And they say that that's the first teaching that the Creator gave our people when we were created, was to always be thankful. And so whenever we come together, that's the first thing that we do. So we acknowledge everybody here, and that we all have our health to a certain degree. We're able to get here. And if there also is any kind of, like maybe a death in the community, we acknowledge that as well. And through our mind, we send our good thoughts, and prayers. And hope that their minds don't go too far down into the depths of darkness. But we're grateful that we're here, this evening, and so we extend our greetings to each other. This, hello, we do that, and we thank the Creator for that. And then once we acknowledge all the people, then we begin to address all the things that are here on what we call our Mother, the Earth. That's what we call the earth, is our mother. And why we do that is because in our creation story, the way we understand how everything came to be is that the Creator, He took the earth and He made molds and shaped it, and in His mind, as He's doing that, He has a thought of why it's going to be here. It has a purpose for being here. And then a part of His Spirit, He breathed a part of His Spirit into that, and it came to life. And so He did that from the earth. So we call the earth our mother, because from there, everything around us that He created, He did with the intent that it would be benefit, it would help us. And so they say that the first things that He did was the water world, and then all the life that lived within them, the animals and the plants, and then the things that grow upon the earth, the plant world, all of the different kinds of medicines and foods and grasses and trees. And then from there, all the different animals, wild and indigenous ones as well as the domesticated ones. And He did that all over the world. And then from there, all of the different kinds of birds as well. And once He finished everything here on the earth, then He turned His direction to the sky world. And they say that when the Sky Woman came here, she's the one that came from this other place. And she's the one that set into motion everything of how it is that we came to be. When she came here, they say that there were things that were already here, spirits. And most of them were all male spirits. So we talk about the winds and the four directions they come from. They have a very important job here. They're the ones that are responsible for creating the changes in the seasons. And then there's also some that come from the west, and they've been visiting us a whole bunch this last week. We call them the Thunders. Well, we call them our grandfathers. And there's a whole story that goes into that, why we call them our grandfathers. And then also, as we go further in the sky world, there's the moon. That's our grandma. That's the sky world. That's the Sky Woman. She became our grandmother, the moon. She controls all the female satellites. And then further up in the sky is the sun. We call him our elder brother. He's the older brother to the Sky Woman. Role model for the male satellite. And so all those things up in the sky world, we acknowledge them. The stars, they're our relatives. And they all have a purpose for being here. So the Creator is the one that did that. He made these agreements with all of them, because without them there would be no life. And so they're still fulfilling their responsibilities. And so as one mind, we collectively gather up all that love, those greetings and that thankfulness and appreciation, and we send that out. We send that out to the four directions. And how we do that is through our mind, because there's an energy inside of there. And when we do these kinds of things like this here, especially in our language, if it's a ceremony or just a social function, they say that when we acknowledge those things, we start calling them by their names in our language. They hear that, and they draw near. They're around us, especially at ceremonies time, because that opening is really long. Then take about an hour, because we don't want to forget anything. Like right now, I just remembered the bugs. They're here for a reason too. They also help with the renewal of everything in creation, the plant world, so that they renew themselves. So we acknowledge all of that, and we send that thankfulness, that love, that appreciation, and we do that through our mind. And then all of our minds are one. And then they say beyond the stars, there's another world that they call the land of the Creator. And there, He has helpers too. We call them messengers. There's 4 of these guys. They travel back and forth from the land of the Creator. And they're always delivering messages to us of how we're to be as people. And so whenever we talk to the Creator, we're really sincere about it, to God, because every culture has a different term. Buddha, all those guys too. Is that if we're real sincere with that, see the mind again, there's that energy. They say that the Creator can hear that. And He'll send one of those messengers then down here and deliver a message to us. So how they come to us, how they communicate to us can be in our dreams. They can provide opportunities in our life to grow, to become better human beings. But that's the way the Creator intended it for to be. For us to always be learning. And so they're around us all the time, day and night, and they're the ones that are responsible for clearing our path, because the Creator gave each and every one of us a purpose for being here when we were conceived. We believe that the Creator was a part of that. It wasn't just mom and dad. The Creator was a part of that too, because the Creator provided that spirit in order for conception to occur. And so inside of us, we have a spirit, we have a fire, wojist. And that our purpose in life is to find out what that is. How can we give back to our people? How can we help our people, our community, our nation? And so that's our purpose in life. And the 4 messengers are always trying to guide us on that right path. But sometimes we kind of go and do whatever we want to do. And then they say what they'll do is they'll set a roadblock up there. We call those accidents. And what that is to make us stop. To make us stop and think about what we're doing or even what we're thinking. So that we get back on the path that the Creator intended for us to be on. And so we gather our minds together as one. We extend our greetings, our thankfulness and love. And we send that to those 4 celestial beings, that they're still fulfilling their responsibilities as well. And then lastly, we acknowledge Sungwayatizo. That's what we call the Creator in our language, the Oneida language. And what that literally means, is that He's the one who created us. The physical, the emotional, the psychological, and spiritual beings that we are. The we is everything He created. It's just not the people. That's who the we is. And so the Creator, He says that we're only here for a certain number of days. And nobody knows how long that's going to be. And so that's why every day, first thing when we wake up, the first thing that we're to do is give that thanks. We send that to our higher power. We send that to God. We send that to the Creator. We send that to, all those other guys, that the different cultures talk about of who their Creator is. That we're still here for another day. And so we extend our greetings. I extend my greetings, my thankfulness, and my love to you. Because I'm talking right to him. And he's going to hear that. So I go about my business for that day. And so this Ganihila Dunksla, we talk about the cosmology of the Ludinashoni, that's what we call ourselves, the people of the Longhouse, the Iroquois, is that our ancestors were very cognizant of the natural world, because that's the responsibility that was given to us as the human beings, is to be the protectors. How we're taking care of the earth is going to reflect on us, because it's going to come back on us. And so that's what the Creator intended for us to do. When he made us, the people, the four main races of the world, the black, the white, the yellow, and the red, he gave each one of them a multitude of ethnic people. He gave each one of those unique groups of ethnic people a language. And nowhere else in the world are you going to find that language than traditionally where those people originated from. Today it's different, you know. But at one time, that's how it was. And so that's diversity there. And so he gave each one that language, he gave each one their way of life, and he gave each one their songs and their dances. And it's all different. The song and dance may be different, but why we do them is for the same purpose. So we all have ceremonial songs, we all have ceremonial dances, we have medicinal songs and dances as well. And then we have our social dance songs. These are songs just for our entertainment, to have fun. You know, this is for our health, for our well-being. And so this evening, we are here to share, not to, I'm going to see if we can get everybody off of their chairs. We come here to share, not to do a demonstration. And to experience, you know, our songs. And so as we go through the program this evening, I'll be doing some education and awareness about us, a little bit about Wisconsin, and some history, some culture, and an explanation of the songs that we're going to share. Every song that we have, there's a story with it of how it originated, where its origins are. And so that's the way we're going to kind of go this evening. And so I hope that you're still able to stand up and come out here. We're going to do some nice slow dances at the beginning so everybody can get out here. Then we're going to speed it up. We'll do some women dance songs and then some real fast songs to show you the different styles of social dance songs that we have. So, Swahalega. Everybody ready? Everybody rip, roaring to go? Okay. So, da shmilige gandoka ne swarahusios ne gan iliwes. Ne jinate ne jujilahtu ne gaga ne ohuja keka ne ganinya suha. Ne gaga ne mohadilago ne lahandis. Ne hodo ne chunuda da kashkikwi ne wahli jalu. Ne swagwe gu. Swagwe gu. Ne de dwanunya. Ne hodo ne chunu ne hagagwini gwi ne wasana go ne hayabona tunuhake. Da toni duhak ne ni go. So this first dance is what we call lahandisu. And that means he's out in front. He's like leading. And these songs here originally come back to the time in our history. It goes back even until late 1700s when our communities would split in the fall time. And the men and some of the women would go off to the hunting grounds and they would spend the whole winter there trapping and hunting and make, you know, and then in the springtime they would come back to the main community. And then, so in the fall, after the harvest ceremonies, that's when the head men who were going to lead this party, they would set the date. And then when that day came, then he would start this song. and then everybody, you walk here, right? It's just like a walk, you know. Would come and join in, and they would go around the whole village like that. And then years ago was the fields around our village, and so at the edge of the woods, that's where the people who were going to stay would stop. And then the people who were going to go on for the winter, they would continue on and go to where their canoes were, because back in the good old days, how we got around was by canoe. And so in the springtime then, when they came back, you would hear these songs coming down the river as the men and women were returning. So then everybody would come back, and they would greet them at the edge of the woods. And that head man of the hunting party, he would lead the songs back into the community, and they would welcome the people back into the community. So this song is like a Thanksgiving song, because see, like I said, that's the first thing. Every time you drink water in your mind, you give thanks to the spirit of that water. Every time we eat something, we give thanks to that, and through our mind, to the spirit of that food. You know, that's the way the Creator intended it to be. So we're going to welcome everybody to come out here. It's boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, and we're going to go around in a circle. It's like follow the leader. Back in the old day, it was like a snake dance. You go all over the village, but today we just go in a circle. So just welcome everybody in there. Now he has a song that he's going to sing, and then there's an answer back. So they're pretty easy, so you can answer back. Okay? Año. Okay, so that was we call it lahandiso. In English, they call it the snake dance. You know, the reason why was because how they would go all over within the village, like a snake. And we're going to do another one similar to that, where we are going to go all over the place. We call it the stomp dance. I forgot to mention halfway or between each verse or a third or a quarter of the way, everybody turned into the circle, right? And what that's about there is giving thanks, you know. So you also notice the direction that we go in, it's counterclockwise. I don't know if anybody ever been to a powwow? You notice when they go dancing a powwow, they go clockwise. See, that's not Iroquois style. That's the different nations. They have a different direction that they go in. But the Iroquois people, we go this way. Everything. The only time we go that way, it has to do when there's a death. When we pay our last respects, when we visit our loved ones, we go that way. When we pass out the food at a death feast, we pass it out in this direction as well. That's the only time we go clockwise. Everything else is counterclockwise. And why we do that has to do, again, with the natural world. Our mother, she rotates counterclockwise on her axis. And the moon goes counterclockwise around her. The planets counterclockwise around our elder brother, the sun. So there's a natural flow of energy there. And that our ancestors, taught us that that's the direction that we go with. We don't go against that. We go with it. And so all of our dances that we do, we go in that direction. Just a little bit of history tidbit. Does anybody know where the Oneidas originated from? Right, New York, mid-state New York, kind of east of Syracuse. That's where our traditional homelands are at the time of contact with the Europeans. And we had a little land issue there. Many Native Americans did, and we ended up out here. And at that time, we signed a treaty with the Menominees, because this is kind of like their Ho-Chunk Menominee. This is their traditional homelands. Actually, more Menominees, because the Ho-Chunks actually kind of came in later as well. And 1822, that's when our ancestors moved here to the Northwest Territory. Wisconsin became a state, I believe, in 1848. And so we were here for over 25 years before Wisconsin became a state. And we're part of what they call the Five Nations. there's 5 Iroquois nations that formed a confederacy according to our oral history over 2,000 years ago. And that's the Mohawks, the Oneidas, the Onondagas, the Cayugas, and the Senecas. And it goes back to a time in our history where there was a lot of warring and a lot of killing, and even talk about cannibalism that went on at that time. And what the Creator did, He sent the messenger here to put everything back into perspective. And so what He did was that He organized these nations with a message of peace. Is that if we understand what peace is, what it really means, to have that peace within our minds, within our whole being, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and physically, is then if we have that, there's no reason, to have war, to be mean, to one another. Because they say that everything that came to the indigenous people is a reflection of what the Creator's land is like. And that over time, there's many, many different messengers that came to our people and indigenous people all over the world of how the higher power wants us to live and to be. And so from that time, these 5 nations united, and they agreed to never wage war again among each other. They formed this confederacy. It was actually the first United Nations, and there was 5 of them. And so there's a whole relationship within there, and how at that time all of the most feared men and women who were sorcerers as well as cannibals were put in these positions as political and spiritual leaders. And from the Oneida Nation, there were 9. We call them chiefs today in English, Lodianisu in the language. What that really means is that they're of the good. And that goes for a long ways, because those titles were for life. There's checks and balances with that, though, to ensure that they follow proper protocol. And the ones who appoint them were the Gudianiso or Yodianiso. That's the women. We're matrilineal. We follow our mother's bloodline. And that's where our clans come from. There's 3 clans among the Oneida Nation, the wolf, the turtle, and the bear. But there's 3 families within each one of them. And so that's where these 9 titles come from. So it's the clan mothers who are the ones who appoint the spokesperson for her family. So of the whole Oneida Nation, there were 9 clan mothers. They appointed the 9 chiefs who were the spokespersons for that family. And they worked together on a clan level, on a nation level, and on an international level. And so, over time, that message went out, they say, as far as west as the Mississippi, down to the Everglades, and up the Hudson Bay. And there's evidence of other nations forming confederacies as well, because that's what our people were. We became ambassadors then. Even the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, is modeled after how we are structured politically. And so, I don't know if it's ironic or what, but there's 50 states in the United States. I don't know why they didn't add another one. But there's 50. But there's other things. There's in terms of the governance, on the lower level and on the federal level. And we have that same kind of a thing. I wanted to share that little bit. And this next dance that we're going to do is what we call Yoneheladung Dakwa. And what that means is what they do to give thanks. We commonly call this the friendship dance. And this is a partner dance. Now, the people that went to powwow, they know that powwow step, eh? How they do that powwow step when they dance to the big drum. We have the little drum, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And so this is a man and a woman, dance. They dance together. So all the guys are going to get in one row on the inside of the circle. We're going to dance in the circle again. All the guys on the inside, and then the women on the outside. And they're going to lock elbows, not horns, or elbows. And they're going to do that dance to the beat of that drum. And we go heel toe. Big drum, I think it's toe heel or something. And halfway through that dance, that beat of that drum is going to change. So you have to listen. And when you do that, then that's when you face your partner. This is that part in there where we acknowledge each other. You know, we come face to face, you know, with each other. And there's that acknowledgement, you know. There's that friendship, you know, that the Creator intended for all of us to have with each other. And then that beat's going to go back to the original beat. And then you lock arms again, and then you dance. And so we're going to sing some of these songs here. And again, have all the guys come out here. Come on. We'll have these two guys here are going to lead. And just get in line behind them. Form a circle, you know, half circle behind them. We're going to dance what we call the friendship. Grab a partner, grab a different partner. We got to get everybody out here to dance. Otherwise, I'm going to keep singing the same song. I know. Come on out here, everybody. Grab. You're going to have to go right over to him. Grab him by the hand. Friendship Day. You notice the type of headdress that the men are wearing. This is a traditional headdress for the Oneidas. We have the old ones Traditionally, they were made from the immature eagle. Feathers were gathered, from that particular bird, and you would split them down on each side of the quill. They would kind of swirl a little bit. You tie a bunch of them together and you sew it on to the frame. We use black ash to make the frame out of, like the black baskets. A lot of people, a lot of nations do. We make the frame from that, and we put deer hide around it. And the positioning of the big feathers, there's 3 of them. There's 2 that are kind of standing upright, and 1 that lays down in the back. And that's the style of the Oneida headdress. For the Mohawk, they would have 3 of them standing straight up. So if you see a man with the stoi on, and there's 3 of them standing straight up, you know that man is a Mohawk. And then if it was Onondaga, they would have 1 up and then 1 laying down. And then for the Cayugas, they would just have 1 leaning kind of towards the back, just 1 feather. Senecas would have just 1 feather. So the positioning of those feathers tell the people what nation that man is from. Back in the 1700s, around 1720, sometime in there, the Tuscaroras, they had a little land issue too over in the Carolinas, and ended up in our territory. And they came into the Oneida's territory, and they lived amongst our people. And their story just has the feathers on. They don't have any of those great big feathers on it, standing up or laying down. They just have the split feathers. And why we use the eagle? It's just not that it so happens to be the national bird of the United States. Back when they're trying to determine which one to pick, Benjamin Franklin, he wanted the turkey. And that was because, we used so much of that guy. We had Thanksgiving almost every week, not once a year. We ate a lot of that, a lot of wild game. But our ancestors told them about the eagle, the stories that we have about that particular bird, and that they say that originally they didn't have a song, but he gave us songs, the people. And they say at the beginning, every now and then he would come back, the Creator, and he would walk and be among the people, and he'd be seeing how things were going. And there would be some little tweaks you have to do, and you're like, we got to do to our car every now and then. And that was one of the things he observed. When the people got up in the morning, there's a song that we would sing to give thanks to the Creator, our morning song. And when the people were doing that, he noticed all the birds were sitting there and they're kind of looking sad because they didn't have a song. They didn't have a voice. And so the Creator, he knew right away what to do. So he gathered all those birds together. And he told them, next morning at sunrise, you're going to fly up into the sky. And when you can't go any higher on your descent back to earth, you're going to hear a song. And you're going to start singing that song. And that's the song that each of the birds, they have their own song. And they say the last ones were the eagles, because there's eagles all over the world. And they say that they were the last ones, and that they flew so high, they say that their wings touched the land of the Creator. And our understanding of that world is that's gonna go. We use that as a greeting. It's gonna go. There's a little gun on there, making it a question. What that means is there a great peace, a great sereneness, a great pleasantness, a great calmness within your whole being. That's how we greet each other. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. Oknis. Yeah. How about you? They say that that's what that world is like. There's no death. There's no hunger. There's no disease. Even to think something bad doesn't exist in that world. They call it utopia. That's what it's gonna go is. So that bird knows what that world is like. And so that's why we look to that bird in a revered way. Native Americans are indigenous people all over the world. And anything that's just been born, human, plant, animal, water life, whatever, the spirit that the Creator sends in order for that to come to life is pure, because that's where it comes from. It comes from that world. So we see that in babies. They don't know any wrong. They don't know, how to cuss when they're first born. They're gone on. And that's how it is in the natural world too. So we use the immature eagle, the feathers from an immature eagle. That's the old-time traditional headdresses that our men would wear. And that's to remind us, especially us as men, because we have a hard time being humble, more so than the women, is to remind us to have that humbleness, to have that good mind, to have those pure thoughts, And so that's why we put those kinds of feathers on our headdress. And even the women, they would wear them in their hair as well, for the same purpose. And the drum that we have, we call it a water drum, nakwa. And it's made from the elements of the natural world. We have the old ones were made from the basswood, and they would put hot coals on it to burn it, and scrape and burn to get it hollowed out. And then we hire a beaver or a woodpecker to put a hole in the side. And then we would seal it. We would use pine pitch to seal it, and then we use the deer hide to cover it. Again, the ring on here is made from the black ash, again, and then we wrap that. And then we put water inside of it. And depending on how much water you put in there or how tight the drum is, that gives you the sound of the drum. And it's round, just like everything, the cycle of life. That's what this is right here. It represents everything in creation, the plant, animal, and water life. And that's the kind of drum that we use as Iroquois people. We have another hand drum over there, but that's more, I've heard that our people use it as well, but that's more Algonquian. That's like the Ojibwe, Menominee, Potawatomi, even the Siouan people as well. That's their drum. And they have that great big round drum that they use as well. That's particular to their culture. Now, the next dance that we want to do here is for the women. We call it Gunumkwe Neha Olanagai, or Olanagai Yunze. And it means the ways of the women. Remember, we're matrilineal. So everything starts with them, life. And over time, there were messengers that came and talked about these songs that have to do with the ways of the women. Our grandmother, our Mother to Earth, and all the female side of life. And that they wanted to be a part of the ceremonies. And so there was a man that was able to, he was clairvoyant. He was able to communicate, to what we call the three sisters, the corn, beans, and squash, because they knew that he was sent here for a purpose, and that his time was coming to an end, and that they knew he was going to the land of the creators. And at this time, they say that the people forgot how to be respectful, and they wanted to leave because of that. And so he convinced them. He made them think about what this world would be like if they were to leave. Because for Iroquois people, the three sisters are they're the leaders of all the foods. They're the leaders. It's a big staple in our diet. It still is today. And so he communicated to the corn, who's the elder of the three sisters. The bean is the baby, and the squash is the child. And the corn, they say, is about what do you call it, dayadas, a beautiful young woman. And they say that she was the one that was appointed to talk to this man, and why they wanted to leave, because they weren't being respected. And this, they say that this happened around 1815, sometime in there. And because of all the changes that went on with our people, with the customs and everything that came across the ocean, and how our people were changing. And the number one thing was because of the alcohol. And so they wanted to leave. So there's a whole story, big long story about that. But this man, his name was Handsome Lake, son of the Leo. And he asked them to think about what that would be like if they were to leave. Think about the children. Think of how much they would suffer. Because there's no food. There would be starvation. There would be famine. Now think also about the elders. Because they're just like in their second childhood when they get to be an elder. But they have this wealth of knowledge too, though, from a long life about how we're to live. But think about how they would suffer as well. And so the Spirit, they talked about that, the three sisters, and they said, yeah, that's true, that would happen. So then this is what we want you to do, is we want you to raise back up the sacred songs of the ways of the women. So that's the ceremonial songs. And from that time on, our young men who are composers, who are singers, they started creating, just like, what is that one guy called? Elvis? Johnny Cash? Those kind of guys, Tammy Wynette. I don't know who it is today. Justin Bieber. They start making songs up just for entertainment. We turn on the radio, we do that today. But they start doing these songs for the women. And it's just the women that dance them. So the spirit of the corn, she told Handsome Lake to do that and to remind the people of that respectful relationship the Creator intended for us to have with them. And so that story is told at certain ceremonies. And we do this dance in the longhouse where we have our ceremonies and the women dance, the ceremonial. But now we have the new songs, new ager, eh? And we share these songs so that the women can give thanks through dance. And it's a little a shuffle that they do with their feet. So we call it the new songs of the ways of the women. So we want to do this for all the women here. And again, all the women here, stand up. And we're going to have our women lead and join in the circle and to honor all the female side of life.
Oh!
So that was the woman's dance songs. A little bit more education here. This next dance that we're going to do, we call fish dance, and it's a fast dance. Those that have been to powwows, they have the intertribals where everybody is kind of slow, just about everybody can get out there and dance. And then they start getting to the different categories: jingle dance, shawl dance, the fancy shawl dance, the men fancy dance. Those are a little bit faster songs. We have similar ones as well, and this is one of them. And again, we say that the fish, it's another part of our diet. Back home, we've been revitalizing our culture, and a lot of these songs are just now coming back to our community here in Wisconsin. There's another Oneida community up in Canada, north of Detroit, about 90 miles or so. And there's still some Oneidas that are still in our homelands in New York State. But because of what happened, our people became divided because of the things that came across the ocean. The Bible is one of them. The school is another one. And our people became colonized. began to dress and act and talk and everything just like the people that came across the ocean. But we've always had people among us that hung on to our teachings. And the language is the most important. We're very, very poor when it comes to speakers. I've been learning my language for about 30 years. English is my first language. In my family, both of my parents are first generation English speakers. And both of my mom and my dad. And why that is because of the federal policies that have impacted Native people. And the one that probably had the most detrimental impact on Native people's cultures, identity, and language was the boarding schools, which were like prisons. Because what they did is they took our little kids from our parents. That's my grandparents' generations. And they shipped them off to these boarding schools across the United States. The first one that was opened in Pennsylvania, in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It was run by the military, and it was an old abandoned barracks that they fixed up. And in 1781 was when the first batch of Oneidas were forced to go to this boarding school. And we have the names of all those children, that went at that time, and over the course of our history as well. And when they went, they were as young as 5, 6 years old, and they didn't come back until they completed that school, 8th grade. And then beyond that, they went to the industrial school where they learned a trade. And at that time, the men, they learned how to be carpenters, they learned how to be blacksmiths, they learned how to be farmers. And for women, it was anything to do with the house, to be a baker, to be a homemaker, to clean, and all that kind of stuff, And so, when they were put in those schools, they never came home. During spring break, they never came home until they completed that, until they were young men and women. Did they come back to our communities? And when they came back, when they left, they couldn't speak English because that's the language that they learned in the home. Kind of like how it is with the Amish people today. I visited those people because I was interested in how they retain their language, because that's their identity. And they don't speak any English in their home. They speak that German dialect that they speak. Those children don't learn formal English until they go to school in kindergarten. That's when they start teaching them English. And so when a lot of Native Americans that were put into these boarding schools and they came back home, they couldn't speak their language anymore. And they didn't know anything about our songs, our dances, our history. It was all taken away. And what was put into them was all American. They were Christianized, they were given English names. And baptized and everything. And so my grandpa, he lived to be 90, I think 94 it was. I used to go to him though when I first started learning my language over 30 years ago. And he was fortunate, and there were many of them like him, because when they came back home as young men and young women, their parents still spoke Oneida in the home. And because Oneida was his first language, and they didn't catch up to him until he was 9 years old, and this was mandatory. Parents couldn't say no. This was a federal policy. But he was 9 years old before he went, and when he came back, he couldn't speak Oneida. But because his parents and a lot of that generation, all they spoke was the Oneida language, he picked it back up, and he was a really good speaker. And so I used to go to him, when I first started learning my language, and a lot of elders too. But today, because of that school in our community, we have maybe we can count in one hand how many speakers we got left. There's over 17,000 Oneidas, and we can count in one hand how many speakers we have left. We have some young people, younger than myself, that have been learning the language, and they're teaching their children. And there's another guy my age, a little bit older, who's a fluent speaker. You know, he dedicated over 30 years of his life, you know, to learn the language. And so he's the speaker on the wolf side of the longhouse. And I speak on our side, the bear and turtle side. And our longhouse, it faces east to west. It's a long building. That's the traditional style of homes that our people lived in. Matrilineal, so all the women and their children and their spouses, when they got married, the man went and lived with the wife and her family. And so when we have ceremonies, we divide that house in half. On the west end of the longhouse, that's where the Wolf Clan people come from. That's where they sit. And any visitors or people that don't have a clan. And then over here on the east side of the longhouse, we have the Bear and the Turtle clan. And that's where they sit. And the clans that goes back thousands and thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, how the clans came to be. And it has to do with our women again, our elders, the elder women, who were the head ones of their families. Because when we were first created and death started to occur, we all looked at each other as one family. So everybody who's my mom's age here would be my mom. I would say Seguna. Anybody who's my dad's age, that would be like my dad, Segulage. Or anybody who's my grandparents, you know, my grandma or grandpa, that would be my grandma, that would be my grandpa. Anybody my age would be my brother or my sister. And all the way down the line, like that. And because of that, it started to disrupt our whole society. And so they had meetings about it. And they say there was a young man that had this idea. He was a messenger. And what he devised is a way to divide the people up. And at that time, there was a river that flowed north and south. And all day long, they crossed as a family unit with that elder woman and her sisters and daughters and grandchildren and all that. They crossed that river. They used a great big grapevine all day long. At the end of the day, it broke. So that split the people into two. Like I was saying before, first thing we get up, well, that's what, especially our older people, our elders, you know, we get up at the crack of dawn, whether we like it or not, you know, and so they would do that, give thanks, and then they would make the morning meal. So they have to go get some water or some kindling, or just go outside and give their greetings. And so they were asked to pay special attention to their surroundings at that time, daybreak. It's a real kind of like calm time, almost like a sacred time. And over time, all these different animals appeared before these women. And so then that became their clan. Like I said, there's 9 of them among the Oneidas. There's 3 from the wolf clan. The big timber wolf, the coyote, and the fox. And some say it's the, what do you call it? The timber wolf, the gray wolf, and the red wolf, I think they call it. I'm not sure what it is. So there's 3 distinct families there. And then from the turtle, you have the snapping turtle. Then you have that, they call it the box turtle. It looks just almost like a snapping turtle, but they don't get as big. And then there's that small one, that painted turtle. That's the animal that appeared before this woman. And then from the bear, you know, there's mama bear, papa bear, and baby bear, right? Everybody know that story? Well, they describe it as 3 bears. And some say there are different sizes to those bears. And one in the story, it says it was a cub. Yotoska Okbal. It was a cub. Because they had a discussion about that particular clan, because on one side, the 2 families that seen the bear, one great big bear and a medium-sized bear. On the other side of the river, one of those elderly women, they seen a cub. And so they talked about that, and they thought that that family should be with the other ones. So that family crossed over. And so They say there's 9 altogether. 3 from that fly from the bird family. It's the heron, the snipe, and the hawk. And there's different kinds of them as well. And then 3 animals that roam about on the earth. We have the deer, the wolf, and the bear. And there's different ones of that deer as well, because they talk one as being a buck, one as being a fawn, and one as being a doe. And then there's 3 from the water world that make their home in the waters. That's the turtle, the beaver, and the eel. And again, there's different ones of them. So those were how the clans came to be, tens and tens of thousands of years ago. And they say when the glaciers receded, is that what they call it? We went back the other way. And the people moved in that direction. And we moved up into the northeast part of this turtle island. And over time, different ones of those families kind of got together and they went off and established themselves. So where our homelands is, to the east, is the Mohawk. And they're in the Adirondack Mountains, Mohawk Valley. And we call them Ganyange Haga in our language. That means the people of the flint, because in that area there's a lot of flint. And as we go east, then it's ours, the Oneidas. We say Oneida Aga. Onaya is a rock. Onayot, now that rock is standing upright. So it's the people of the standing stone. And as we go further west, then we start getting into the big hills. Onundage Haga, the people of the hills, we call Onondaga. And then further is Cayuga Haga, that's the Cayuga. Swamp, lowlands in their territory. And further to the west is the Jitwana Aga, the people of the mountains. Yeah. All right. We're gonna. I'll go all right, so that was bean dance. We're going to do one more dance, and it's going to be another fast and furious one. Even faster and furiouser than the fish dance. These are going to be some songs. There's some songs in there that are kind of slow, not slow, but, you know. And then there's some songs in there that are really fast. And this is where you're going to see a lot of fancy footwork. So this is Ganehwai is what we call it. This song originally comes from the Delaware people. And it's called the Naked Dance. Oh. You don't have to get naked though. Yeah, they call it the skin dance actually. This will be the last song. And then we're going to sing some of those songs, a few of those songs, and then we're going to switch over and do some smoke dance songs. And these are some songs that are more real contemporary, just since the 50s, maybe 60s. These songs came out, and they're real fast songs as well. And so then that'll conclude this evening. So again, if you dare, come out and the smoke though, but we'll see.
All right, before we jump into our more contemporary dance here, the smoke dance, we're gonna show you where these dances originated from. We got these dances from our war dances, and over time, when we put our weapons down, we kind of still kept these songs and speeded up the tempo and used them just for fun. And so we use them at social gatherings, like now, just to have a good time to entertain one another, like Randy said. So we're gonna get started with the slower version of the smoke dance.
Well, that concludes this evening's festivities. So before we leave, we have to shut it down. Just like the beginning, gather our minds together as one, greet each other, Mother Earth, everything upon her, the creative forces in the sky world, the messengers of the Creator. And as one mind, we gather up all that love, those greetings, and that thankfulness, and we send it out. We send it out to the four directions. We send it out to the Creator. And our minds are one. And so if there's anything that I've forgotten, in true Iroquois fashion, I ask for forgiveness, and that this is as far as we're going to go this evening. And appreciate the Oneida Library, the Wapaka Community Library, for inviting us to share a little bit about who we are. So, Yamoko, Yanito.
Thank you again to the Oneida Longhouse Singers, and thank you all for staying and bearing with the heat in here, especially the dancers as well. And just one note, Peg, over in the blue shirt over here, if any of you are part of the summer reading program and would like to have credit for coming to this event, please see Peg before you leave. Otherwise, I think we're all done. So once again, thank you to the Oneida Longhouse Singers.
Amen.